The Mazda 3, one of our favorite small cars here at CarGurus, and it returns for 2024, bringing slightly new interior choices and a special carbon turbo trim. This one is a turbocharged Mazda 3, just like we've driven before. It is fully loaded, just under $40,000, and while that might sound like quite a lot, this car is competing against the luxury cars like the Audi A3. So how can it really compete? Well, with all-wheel drive and a lot of impressive technology under this hood and inside, I think you'll find a lot to like. The Mazda 3 is as fresh as ever. It came out in 2019, and we drove one then, 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. Now in the 2024 model year, the 3 is just looking great, and it's offering a lot of equipment, even at higher prices. The Mazda 3 has two four-cylinder engines. There's a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated with just over 190 horsepower, pretty healthy numbers, and unlike a lot of small cars, you can convert from front-wheel drive to all-wheel drive if you're ordering the S Carbon Edition. There's also the turbocharged models. That's 250 horsepower, 320 pound-feet of torque in a car this size. That's what this one is. Of course, the fuel economy, not so great on the turbos versus the regular four cylinders, especially in front wheel drive. You can see those numbers. But whether you're getting the hatchback or the sedan, there's a lot of choice here. On most trims, there's a 6-speed automatic. But if you hunt for the proper Mazda 3, a hatchback in the proper trim, you'll get a 6-speed manual transmission, unlike most any car in the segment. The 3 looks better as a hatchback than a sedan. That's probably why you pay a little bit more for it. And when I look at this car, I see something pretty low. It's very low, almost sports car low. Mazda speed has not been around for a while, but that's pretty much what this Mazda turbo is like in terms of power, in terms of refinement. And the looks back that up. It's just a smooth, fluid shape from front to rear. What you do is sacrifice some interior space and ingress and egress. That's why this car looks as it does. But when you're spotting a turbocharged model, noticing the black grille and the black mirror caps and that black spoiler, that's how you can tell it's got the uprated engine. And this one has even more goodies on it, like special black wheels. It's a very, very nice car to look at, and really, after all these years, it's still looking pretty good. When you look at the front edge, you'll see that the headlights are recessed underneath the hood trim. These are expensive looking parts because they definitely are harder to manufacture. But Mazda does that because, why? Because it can and because it looks better. Just like these turn signals. They're LED, but they fade almost like an incandescent bulb. Those little details make the Mazda 3 at every angle, inch by inch, feel more special than competitors. The Volkswagen GTI is a really nice looking hatchback, but I think the Mazda 3 takes that and elevates it. The only problem, it's less practical because of this element. The C-pillar, that wide flank of metal, makes it very difficult to see out of when you're actually inside. The taillights remind me of an Alfa Romeo, a lot of the hatchbacks in Europe that you couldn't get here, but I see a ton of Mazda 3s on the road, even at this price. And this deck lid spoiler and the bigger exhaust tips, that's how you know it's a turbo. Cargo space. This is where the 3 is very noticeably small. 20 cubic feet in this hatch versus 13 cubic feet behind the seats in the trunk of the sedan. But really, if you really got to carry stuff any more than what you see here, you're better off getting a CX-5. The Mazda 3 doesn't change how nice it feels inside. And at this price, when you order it in red leather, it's nicer inside than an Audi A3. The Mazda 3 is all about minimalism and high quality. For a car that starts just over $25,000, you get a lot of premium feeling materials and really good fit and finish. And at this high end, it truly feels worthy of a lot of luxury cars. The only issue, this touchscreen that's not totally a touchscreen. It's comfortable in here and it's also cozy. It's a lot tighter inside the hatchback than it is inside the sedan. Not only are these window arches really tiny, the door openings are, and the back seat has a lot of blind spots. The Mazda 3 is a 5-seater, but what it really is a 2-seater plus maybe a space for a medium-sized dog. It is very tight back here for a 5'11" adult. Yeah, I just don't want to sit back here, period. New this year on turbo models, a 10.25-inch screen. It's larger than other Mazda models, and it also comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And it's a touchscreen that lets you operate while on the move, not just when you're parked. That's a new feature, but guess what's not a new feature? If you get out of CarPlay, it is now a static screen, and I really wish Mazda would fix this, because even though you got a rotary dial on the console and the text is generally easy to read, well, guess what? The screen's so big and it's still truncating song information, which makes absolutely no sense. Try seeking, trying using the volume. It is not a simple system. It would be a lot easier if it was just a touchscreen all the time. And when you're driving, you can barely reach this thing. So the whole thing has to be scrapped. That's the worst part I can say about the Mazda 3. The turbo models pack some pretty good punch. And if you're able to put premium gas in here, the full amount of power and torque. And if you don't want to, say you're feeling cheap this month, or really you're just sick of paying the ridiculously high premiums for premium, Mazda just automatically detunes the engine without damaging a single thing. That's how they talk about it. So really, this is almost like a flex fuel vehicle like they used to be. It's not ethanol. But between regular and premium and being able to switch between them, you can't do that in luxury cars. You just cannot. And Mazda is flexible enough to let you do that. Personally, I put in premium because I want all that torque. The only issue, as I've said before with all my Mazda 3 reviews, is that the gaps in these gear ratios, because there's only 6, doesn't quite extract all of the power from this engine, and there's a lot of it. But when you're at highway speeds, there's just not enough room for this car to downshift, whereas an 8-speed transmission or a 9, it has more gears to take full advantage of that while also dropping the revs lower. But after you drop down to speed, this car is quiet. It truly does feel plush for a car that's really at this price no longer an economy car. It isn't. Mazda has been moving up market for years, so don't let anything fool you. Don't let anyone else fool you either. This car truly competes with luxury nameplates if you choose to spend that kind of money. Now, the topmost trims have the most active safety features, like the lane keeping aid. This actually has a traffic jam assistant that works at 40 miles an hour and below. It will self-steer the car when there are lanes under certain conditions. It's not anything close to what you're getting, say, with Ford Blue Cruise, anything like that. Mazda isn't quite there yet with technology, but in terms of all the safety features, there is quite a lot. You just have to step up to all the higher trims to get them. Time after time, the back roads is where the Mazda 3 truly shines. Remember Mazda's advertising campaigns? It wasn't that long ago. Maybe it was. The little boy saying zoom, 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 zoom. He meant it. I don't know where he is right now, but if he's driving a Mazda, I think he can honestly say that his words were true. Truth in advertising here, people. The Mazda 3 is a driver's car. Particularly just with this entire chassis. Because when you design a chassis, well, a lot of people that design chassis for economy cars don't really have the budget to make them fun. They're competent, they're safe, they're all of that. But the moment you pitch it into a corner, you don't like it. But here, this is a lot of fun. It truly is. The turbo engine definitely makes it a lot more fun. The steering's nice and light. There's not a ton of communication with the road surface. That doesn't bother me so much just because I know exactly where these wheels are pointed. There's no slop, hardly any roll. Now, I like Mazda's SUVs. At CarGurus, we've reviewed a whole lot of them, but each one of them rolls a lot more. They're more softly sprung. And that detracts from performance driving, because who wants to be all over the road tossing and turning? The sporty nature in the SUVs is still there, but elementally, it's distilled in the 3, especially this hatchback. There's just not that many companies out there that deliver experiences like this. And you can go on all day about the German manufacturers, some of the other Japanese brands. This is where it's at. Even on rough roads, it doesn't punish you whatsoever, and there's really Nothing fancy going on here with the suspension or the dampers. You don't have to spend a lot, and you won't have to spend a lot to maintain this car. It's just gonna ride like this and drive pretty well for years. If you like driving quickly, you'll like stopping quickly. This car does it. The sedan and the hatchback each come in 6 trims. The base S is only on the sedan and it starts at $24,170. The cheapest hatchback is $25,690. Mine was the most expensive, the 2.5 Turbo Premium Plus, $38,210 with extra charge paint and the destination fee. That sounds expensive, but it competes with the Audi A3s and the BMW 2 Series Grand Coupes. Those are expensive cars, and at the lower end, you've got the Honda Civic hatchback and the Toyota Corolla hatchback. The Mazda 3 has always been one of my favorite small cars ever since I started testing cars because it's always offered more than a lot of other competitors. It's stepped up in class, and when you're shopping for a smaller car, it feels good to get features that you ordinarily couldn't get for those prices. This one is a high price. At 38 grand, yeah, it's definitely in a different category, but that's the great thing about the Mazda 3. You can start low, you can go mid, or you can go high, and at every level, it's very competitive. Add to that, it's just great to look at, and it's always fun to drive. What do you think? Go to CarGurus.com, browse our listings, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.